Very pleasant morning. Very pleasant morning, everyone.
அந்த பர்த்டேக்கு இவ வர்றா என்ன அன்னைக்கு
என்ன மனு
ஏம்மா நீங்க அங்க A very good morning and a warm welcome to you all for the day 4 session 1 of FDP on recent trends in English studies. Let us now commence this 4th day session 1 of faculty development program with a moment of reverence. I invite Mrs. T. Eunice Solomon to lead us in the opening prayer.
Dear God, we come before you today to pray for the 4th day FDP program. We ask for your guidance and wisdom throughout the program. We pray that the program will be successful in helping participants developing the skills and knowledge they need to succeed in their careers. We ask for your blessings on the program, leaders, facilitators, and participants. We pray that they will have the strength and resilience to overcome any challenges they may face. We pray that they will be filled with wisdom and compassion as they work together to achieve their program's goal. We thank you for your love and support. We pray in the name of Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, ma'am, for your hearty prayers. As we continue with the enriching aspects of program, I would like to invite Mrs. Niveta Liz Gloria for the Bible reading.
Let us move to the next schedule of welcome address. Over to the comparing staff.
Yes.
As we embark on this journey of the fourth day of the Literary Faculty Development Program, it's my pleasure to extend a warm welcome to each one of you. For a formal welcome, I would like to welcome the Faculty Development Program Coordinator and our loving research guide, Nazareth Margoschis College at Palayanmanai, to deliver the welcome address.
Very pleasant morning, everyone. It's a moment of extreme pleasure to welcome each one of you present today. Therefore, I welcome one another as Christ has welcomed you for the glory of God. It's a great honor and privilege to stand before you to extend words of gratitude on this special fourth day, first session FDP program. First of all, I would like to welcome our secretary, Mr. Prem Kumar Rajasingh, who is a man with great vision and mission, an icon for hard work. I feel very happy to welcome you, sir. I'm very proud to welcome our principal, Dr. Javas Sambal. He is a dynamic leader who gives us endless motivation, inspiration, and encouragement. I welcome you, sir. My hearty welcome to our HOD, Professor Jude Livingston, Professor and Head of PG Department. He who put his soul and heart to uplifting others attains dignity. A warm welcome, sir. Words are rose petals that are sprinkled with fragrance to welcome my good friend, Dr. Beulah Hemalata, Assistant Professor of English, a research guide and head NSS coordinator, who has been the radiance of this program. I welcome you, ma'am. Stars shine at night. Some stars shine at bright daylight. It's my pleasure to welcome one such star, Dr. Jehoson Jerish, Assistant Professor, Department of English and Cultural Studies, Christ Deemed to be University, Bangalore. Honorable Chief Guest of today's program. It's my pleasure to extend a cheerful welcome to you, sir. Your presence makes us to feel happy. Welcome you, sir. Once again, I welcome one and all gathered here for this program. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Before we proceed further, let's take a moment to express a hearty gratitude to Dr. J. Maricella, ma'am, who has been guiding us through this event on and off the screen. A big thank you, Dr. Maricella, ma'am, for your wonderful welcome address, for setting the tone and leading us with grace and charm. Your efforts were truly appreciated. Thank you, ma'am. As we eagerly anticipate the presence of our esteemed chief guest, I would like to invite Mrs. Vincy Mabel, ma'am, before to deliver the distinguished chief guest introduction.
Good morning to everyone present here. I extend a warm welcome to the gracious participants, extremely overwhelmed to get this opportunity to introduce our chief guest, Dr. J. Jehoson Jerish, on this auspicious occasion of this FDP on recent trends in English studies. Dr. Jerish is a renowned academician and a beacon of knowledge in the realm of English language teaching and cultural studies. He currently enlightens our mind as an assistant professor in the Department of English and Cultural Studies at Christ Deemed to be University, Bangalore, Yeshwanthpur campus, has an impressive academic and professional background. He holds a PhD in English language teaching from Madurai Kamaraj University, completed his BA, MA, MPhil in English from American College, Madurai. He has a Trinity certificate in TESOL from Trinity College, London. Currently, he is also pursuing a PhD in English literature at the Central University of Tamil Nadu. Dr. Jerish accolades include being the first Indian recipient of 2024 TEFL English Language Research Practitioner Grant since its inception in 2013 and receiving the Distinguished Resource Person Award from the Lavender Literary Club in 2020. He has extensive experience in teaching, having served as an assistant professor at Christ Academy Institute for Advanced Studies, Bangalore, and a lecturer in English at American College, Madurai. His research and teaching interests span a wide range of topics, including teaching and testing of speaking skills, literary theories, cultural studies, film and literature, English for mass media, and digital humanities. Dr. Jerish has also presented papers internationally, published numerous articles in referred journals, and conducted various workshops and lectures. As a professional member of several notable associations like IATFL and TESOL, and with a rich history of contribution to the field of English language teaching and cultural studies, Dr. Jerish has established himself as a distinguished academic and professional in his field. As an advocate for innovative teaching methods and a proponent of digital humanities, Dr. Jerish's contribution have significantly advanced the understanding and appreciation of English language and literature. His work, out, his work not only reflects academic excellence, but also a commitment to enriching the educational landscape. We are truly honored to have such an esteemed scholar among us today. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Dr. J. Jefferson Jerish. We are eagerly look forward to the insights and knowledge he will share with us. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the warm welcome, an elaborate one, though. Thank you. And now the pressure is on the speaker to live up to the introduction that's done so that some justice is done to the scholarly audience as well. Good morning. I'm really happy to be part of this enlightening faculty development program with wide range of topics on recent trends in English studies. So I'm really happy, and at the outset, I thank the organizers, the administration management of Margoschis College, Nazareth, the our friend and organizer, Dr. M. Beulah Hemalata, and more importantly, my guidance supervisor, Dr. John Shekhar, who referred or suggested me to be part of this elite panel of resource persons. And I'm thankful to all of them and also to the audience present here this morning. I have this discourse will be on two components of English studies in the contemporary context. One is literary cultural reading, and the literary cultural reading is one, and post-humanism is the other. And the link between reading literature and culture using the post-humanist lens should be the fulcrum of this particular talk. So please allow me to share my screen. Able to do that. So here are the objectives of my talk for the next 1.5 hours, or probably with discussion, probably we'll go until 12:15 or so. The first, okay. There is some marking on the screen. What we can do is there is a the post, if possible, in the chat option, there will be 3 dots at the bottom. If we click it, we can disable annotations so that other participants might not, by mistake, scribble or leave their cursor marks on the PPT screen. So the host can do it, I guess. It's in the chat option. There are 3 dots, more options at the right bottom right corner, where we'll find an option, disable annotations, which would remove these dots which are made by mistake. Okay, so my objectives are as follows: to informatively engage the scholarly audience for the next couple of hours, because I know even I was skeptical to accept this session on a Sunday, because strictly I thought, at least one day in a week there should be some diversion from the academic work or so. But the demands of our academic tasks in the institutions where we work, and I found Sunday the most comfortable day for me to accept it, so that I won't have any barrier or disturbance from the institution where I work in. So disturbance with the task that I have, but then it's equally a daunting task for listeners as well in this technologically dominated context, to sit and listen to a talk. So my first objective would be informatively engage the scholarly audience for the next couple of hours. And then in the arena of English studies, the cultural turn, I thought, in our part of the country is not well perceived, because it happened in 1970s, and its impact on literary studies was quite immediate, but then it was not well perceived in are part of the world, is my opinion. So we need to perceive the impact of cultural turn and how it influences literary studies. That's my first objective, second objective, and then rationalize cultural studies as an academic discipline, because even in the conservative literature departments, cultural studies is viewed as a kind of indiscipline or so. But then it is our at the crossroads of moving forward into different realms of English studies. It is quite vital to rationalize cultural studies as a serious academic discipline. So that would be another objective. Tracing the theoretical underpinnings and practical concerns of cultural studies, on what theoretical ground it is functioning, and what are all the concerns of cultural studies. We need to have a conceptual clarity, and then exploring the emerging avenues for research in literary cultural studies, of which the last one would be probably post-humanist reading. So, and then demonstrate the requisites of a cultural critique, what it takes to be a cultural critique or a literary cultural critique at the first place, because we have series of sessions on how to write a paper, the format of the paper, or the thesis. But then what it really takes to start the journey, to be a lifelong learner and researcher. And then moving on to the second component, identifying the basic tenets of posthumanism, infer the theoretical insights of on posthumanism, compare and contrast the contrast posthumanism with transhumanism, and then conceptualize literary cultural reading through posthumanist lens and the emerging avenues for literary cultural research in posthumanism using theoretical insights, so that it becomes a rigorous academic discipline under English studies, a branch of different discipline, different domains we have under English studies. And finally, more importantly, beyond the academic walls, how to envision cultural studies and post-humanism in action. This is how I have prepared my objectives, and I know I'm a bit over ambitious with this, but then when I was told it's a 10 to 12 session, I thought I could solidly so use some 90 minutes on the discussion, and then take some questions, or on the lecture, and take some questions from the scholarly audience. So this would be the plan. So probably on the first half, that's with literary cultural studies, I'll try to be little brief, without much elaboration. And then I would try to spend more time relatively on the second component. That's my plan for the day. So those who are interested in these domains and fields, or any aspiring English studies researcher or learner, can be prepared for the series of insights in the next 1 to 1.5 hours. So with these words, I move on to the next the slide, that is English and Cultural Studies, the beginnings. So one more thing, in between I may ask simple brainstorming questions. Don't be scared to answer those. They are simple generic questions, just to set our focus on understanding post-humanism and cultural studies in general. So please feel free to use the chat box option to interact with the audience out here. So English as an academic discipline, or English studies, academic discipline encompasses three domains, as we know: language, the study of language, linguistics, that is, and then literature, language teaching, the study of language, and literature. Literature is a broader term in itself. It encompasses literary production in terms of discourses, and that's where we have a healthy debate or argument on what is literature and what should be debated, what should be finding a space in the academic discourse. These are all serious questions that we find. So there were some path-breaking movements and instances in the literary English studies tradition, which were acting as the vital cog in blurring these boundaries of what is literature and what are the texts that should be studied. So to have a conceptual clarity of what we can do, and since these days we find a lot of discussions on what should be done in literature and what is not literature, even in terms of our requisites, in terms of research as well. So uh, we need to have the conceptual clarity to rationalize our choices. Many young scholars these days struggle because they had to convince the conventional teaching fraternity on their choice of research topic, because they don't find it literary, is the uh, major concern. So let's start with the first question. What is doing literature mean? If we can respond, because my answer is something which I received way back in 2010 in my PG class. This would be the first question. I'm not saying this because my supervisor is also here. I'm done with my PhD, but in all my talks related to English studies, I start with this question, and I refer to his question that he asked in the first day of our PG class. What do we become by studying literature? So, to put more sense to this question, what is doing literature, and what do we? That's the second question I posed. No, what do we become by doing literature or studying literature? If you have any responses, you can put it in the chat box. As I told you, the answer I have is the answer which my teacher gave. So, is my volume low? I find the response in the chat box that volume is still low.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I loud enough now? Is it audible now? Is it audible now?
Yes.
Okay, I'll maintain this volume in that case. Okay, sorry if you are not able to follow what I was talking about till this point in time. So the question I was asking is, what do we mean by doing literature, or what do we become by studying literature? Okay, making literature more practical rather than more theoretical. Okay, what are the, yes, that I'm trying to make sense of it. Making literature more practical than more introspective. Introspective. Okay. What are the other responses of brings them to understanding their life with values? Okay, it's an interesting insight which is traditionally understood. Literature teaches values, but then hope you're all aware of a reality game show called Big Boss. Then if literature aims at teaching values, we might have assessments like Big Boss, having cameras in our private spaces and trying to rationalize, understand how far we are enhanced in our values and judgments. But that doesn't make it an academic discipline, though. It makes you more humane. It gives enlightenment. Okay, it's a meaning making process. Professor Vanyadas says, meaning making. It's constructing meaning. Okay, prepare us to be a lifelong learner. It's a graduate attribute, generic graduate attribute. Even UGC also talks about this, preparing us to be lifelong learner. Any discipline, when we study, we become lifelong learners. Literature encourages us to question. Okay, it's closer to what I have in my mind. Literature encourages us to question. It makes us more human, makes us exposed to many. Okay, so if I'm becoming more human by studying literature, how to test it and award a degree to me is the question that comes to our mind. So yes, critical thinking, interrogation, and questioning are closer to what I have in mind based on what I learned some 13 years ago. So a student of mathematics becomes a mathematician, a physics student becomes a physicist, but a student of literature, we don't become better. We don't aim at to become better humans as far as the measurable outcomes are concerned. Maybe they are offshoots of it. We can debate on it. We don't become something, we don't aim at becoming a complete human being or so whatsoever. But then the objective of doing literature is to create critiques, to create scholars who could critique a given text, a given scenario, given concepts and issues. That is okay. uh, Romanticize the life. Okay. So literature is used to make sense of what's happening around by critical questioning. It's a kind of a scholarly activity that aims at creating scholars. So I would like to suggest the audience here to read this particular book by Gerald Graff. It's titled Professing Literature and Institutional History, where in the introductory pages he talks about how the nomenclature of doing literature in itself is a misnomer. He makes a statement that when I say I do literature, the world around thinks that we produce novels, short stories, poems, or prose pieces, that we are authors of text. But then that is not something which we do. As I told you before, we criticize. So he believes at that point in time in 1980s, he believed that it should be BA English criticism or MA English criticism, which should be a more pertinent title than saying it nomenclature, than saying BA English literature. Because when we say we do literature, that's the message that goes out to the larger populace. So around 1917, I told you there's something significant that happened in 1970s. That's the cultural turn, which is a movement in humanities and social sciences, which was ensuring a shift towards focusing culture as the fulcrum of all contemporary debates. To put things into perspective, the existing academic disciplines of that point in time failed to give answers to responses to certain problems which were new to humanity. Say, for example, the gender issues, the power structure, oppression kind of issues. They were not answered. There were no logical or scholarly discourse on encountering these issues. So to evolve responses to such questions for which there were no answers in existing fields of study. I repeat, to evolve responses to such questions to which there were no answers or lack of responses in the existing fields of study, then there emerged a new academic field of study called the cultural studies. It impacted mostly humanities and social sciences. Now, thanks to post-humanism and transhumanist projects, it branches out to sciences as well. So to respond to these questions, which were not answered by existing domains, a new academic discipline emerged, which we can call as the cultural turn, called the cultural turn in the 1970s. I'll talk about cultural studies as an academic discipline in detail in the next slide. So the foundational texts that ensured this turn, these are the four main texts that I could suggest or list down here. Hayden White's Meta History, the historical imagination in 19th century Europe, and Clifford Geertz, The Interpretation of Cultures. His predominant seminal idea of thick descriptions, where he thought the humans in the form of artistic production or scientific production, we leave descriptions of our life here and there. So reading those helps us understand culture better, helps us understand the world better. And there is another idea of partial truths. Clifford James, for that matter, talks about partial truths, where every such narrative has some amount of truth and some amount of imagination, or some amount of things which are not facts. But it is very important to study all these to weave a narrative which is more closer to reality, to understand life and culture better. So here we may get a question, because in general people think cultural studies is studying how to preserve culture, how to uh, uh, glorify our past, or how to go back and bask in the cultural heritage we have. It's not really that. It is a critique in itself. It tries to critique and contest the very idea of how a culture is evolved. It's not something that we it's not something that we understand as preserving the cultural heritage. Rather, cultural studies questions how those practices and customs are socially constructed. So it is not about preserving culture, and we cannot glorify much of our cultural heritage, which is a strong statement to make, but with my understanding, that's what I can say. There is nothing much to glorify in our past. We live in a better world today than how it was in the past. I'll give you examples and discussion topics on this in the course of time. And then Michel Foucault, Discipline and Punish, and especially his work on knowledge and power, how knowledge, power creates, disseminates, and then power instructs people about knowledge. So such discourses of Michel Foucault on during the 1970s actually laid the foundations for these discourses on the interplay of power and knowledge in the generations to come. Here, I just to give you a perspective, how knowledge and power, or in terms of how power is found predominantly deciding what's happening around us. And the best example I can give from the recent past is the Cricket World Cup that we had last week. So how many of us identified this phenomenon that three World Cup finals had taken place in India, one in 1987, for which India did not qualify. We were knocked out in the semi-final, which was in Mumbai. The final was played in Kolkata. 2011, many of us would know, we were qualified for the finals and it was played in Mumbai. And this one, in 2023, again, India qualified. The final was played in Ahmedabad. Narendra Modi Stadium is the new name of the stadium as well. How power acts in all these. So we must go back in time, 1983, when India won the World Cup. NKP Salve, who was the BCCI president and also the Union Minister for Power and Natural Resources, he was not allowed to enter the Lord's Stadium because the passes were sold out. He was a Union Minister back then. So the ego-stricken minister came back and he spoke to some couple of business people of that time, like Dhirubhai Ambani. He had a visionary leader in BCCI by the name Jagmohan Dalmia. Many of you might know. They thought the next World Cup should happen in India, and somehow it became the Reliance Cup. It happened in India, which was originally scheduled to take place again in England. The final was at Kolkata, because who was at the helm of affairs? A Bengali by name Jagmohan Dalmia. And in 2011, the final was played in Mumbai. Who was at the helm of affairs? Mr. Sharad Pawar, who is then the chairman of International Cricket Council. And it's obvious to understand in 2023, the final took place in Gujarat. And there are quite a lot of criticism from the ardent cricket fans. No, traditionally Mumbai or Kolkata would suit the Indian way of playing more. It is because of the political ego that India had to lose. It's a different debate. So this is how power functions in public understanding and knowledge. So it takes some vigilant observation, and I was reading to understand this pattern as well. And then Bourdieu's Outline of Theory of Practice is another text. These are the texts that would be listed as foundational texts for the cultural turn. So cultural studies, is it really an academic discipline? Cultural studies, is it really an academic discipline? Is oh, So it is interdisciplinary. It is interdisciplinary because it encompasses different disciplines, especially from social sciences and humanities, or it is metadisciplinary because it gives an knowledge to analyze disciplines in itself. So, as I told you before, emerged to address concerns that were not addressed by existing disciplines, and it is a so I would rather use the term undisciplining than the traditional view of viewing cultural studies in an English literary classroom as an indiscipline. I would say it's a kind of undisciplining. It's an act of deconstructing the existing disciplines. It's not destroying, but deconstructing to see how the building blocks are formed to create these disciplines. So it is a kind of undisciplining. And where do we locate it? We locate it between humanities, somewhere between humanities and social sciences. Cultural studies as an academic discipline is interdisciplinary. It emerged to address the concerns that were not addressed by existing disciplines. It's a process of undisciplining because the disciplines we had back then were so rigid, and we had to break down into its building blocks to find out responses for the concerns of that time, which the rigid disciplines were not able to respond. So it can be located between humanities and social sciences. So, as I told you before, it's a critique of its own medium. It's a critique of its own medium because it criticizes culture. It uses culture to criticize culture. So, the point here with this introduction I want to make is, as students and researchers of English studies, we should not be ashamed of using the word I am a critique, because the word critique is always looked down upon as someone who's a pessimist or so. Even when we ask questions about our livelihood and life, some people say you live in this nation and you question this nation, you are something who's going against the spirit of this nation. No, the questions help us to get better. So here I make I would like to invite your responses on this. No, how which is preferred more between courage and fear? This question is important to understand post-humanist movement as well. So can you please respond? Which is glorified more, or which is preferred more, courage and fear? I'm again expecting your responses in the chat box. Okay, which is glorified more? Yeah, courage is glorified. Valor is, yes, valor is understood as the most important entity, right? Fear is always looked down upon. Violence is glorified. Non-violence is something considered effeminate. Violence is masculine. That's why even religious narratives always glorify violence, war, and all that. But traditionally, we downplay the role of fear. Fear leads to questioning, right? Fear is less glorified. Fear is less glorified. But I'm not here for no give a verdict on which should be glorified. I would say nothing should be glorified. The things that we glorify more, they don't demand glorification. It is for human comfort and to have an affiliation, we glorify things which don't require glorification. So fear is equally important like courage, because when I thought about our ancestors or so, some point in time, 10,000 years or 5,000 years ago, the civilized societies were vulnerable to barbaric attacks. Even today, any civilized society is vulnerable to barbaric attacks. So, if I listen to narratives from colleagues or cousins in the Scandinavian countries, if you go and talk to them about war, they would say, I'm going for fishing, I'm not interested in war. They are more civilized, and if there is a barbaric attack, it's easy for them to crumble. That's the danger, but by which I'm not saying they should be prepared for war. That's the best way to look look ahead in terms of future. So fear is often downplayed, but when we look back, at some point in time when 100-member group was attacking a clan of 20, 15 people thought it's courageous to go and fight them, and they perished. But my ancestor should be the one who took a cave to hide and escape from that barbaric attacks. That's why I am here. So fear is equally important, because fear comes out of critical questioning. So questioning, if there is a rationality, there will be reasonable fear, which is really good, probably in the course of time I would share a few more insights of this kind to substantiate my viewpoints on this. So fear should be equally glorified, or at the same time, let us not glorify anything, because the summit of valor is non-violence. I remember one of the celebrities from the Bollywood made a statement that Indians begged for freedom, using non-violent methods, and a statesman or diplomat like Shashi Tharoor had to respond. It takes more courage to walk in front of an armed battalion unarmed than going with arms. It takes more courage to walk in front of an unarmed battalion protesting against them. So it's important to understand, um, the summit of valor is non-violence, and fear is the rationality that it is the essence of the critical questioning we have. What may happen out of this? So let's create a safety precaution also. So it is because of fear and courage at equal proportions we have come thus far. So thank you for your responses in this regard. So criticism is not something which is negative. It's not fault finding. Let us not be ashamed of the fact that we are critics. We need to critique, and it's because of constructive criticism over the years, civilization is in a better place today. So the next thing is the establishment of Center for Contemporary Cultural Studies, Triple CS, in Birmingham. It's called BCCS. 1964 it was conceptualized, and 65 they had the formal beginning. And the theoretical underpinnings for cultural studies, of course, it all originated from Marxism, understanding the base and superstructure, and aims to contest capitalist reality. The phrase capitalist reality I took from Mark Fisher's book on capitalist realism, because he talks about how capitalism is so real, and it is popularized among masses that it's real and there is no alternative. And he calls the critiques and public intellectuals to continuously build debates and discourses to understand, to come up, evolve constructive ways to encounter capitalist reality, because most of us hate it, but we know it cannot be replaced, and it would be hypocritic to say I am not a capitalist and things of that kind. Because, but then again, Monday mornings we hate, because we don't hate Monday mornings, but we hate capitalism, is a general social statement. So cultural studies, the functional theories we have originated from Marxism, understanding the base, trying to understand the power relationship between base and superstructure, and it aims to contest the capitalist reality. So how does literature and cultural studies converge? We may have to go back to 1980. Jonathan, that's why I said it's there in the domain for at least 50 years. Only thing, we resist its importance, we resist its presence, integral presence in the literary cultural domains. In our discourses in the class, we may use different sources to contemplate on the point that we want to, but when it comes to rigid academic disciplines, we are still reluctant to include them in the mainstream learning and research. So I go back to 1980, literature and cultural studies. The call for literature to go interdisciplinary is made in 1980 by a structuralist. Even it is not from a post-structuralist, Jonathan Culler. He made the call way back in 1980. I would like to give one instance from his book. He says, and from his text, no, he says, with the same intensity, it's not verbatim, I'm just giving you the paraphrased one. With the same intensity, we analyze canonical literature. It is important to analyze soap operas. It is important to deconstruct, or it is important to critically analyze, not appreciate, a soap opera, an advertisement, in the modern sense, a meme, which has more connect with the larger populace and masses. With the same intensity, we read and interpret or analyze a canonical literary text written by Shakespeare or Milton or Dryden of that age, or even the canonical literature of the Romantic age or Victorian age. So it is more important, the call for literature to go interdisciplinary is made there. It's not only for having a relevance in the academic context, it is also for making it more meaningful as an academic discipline. We will not only lose relevance if we stick on to the traditional understanding of literary text, we will also not be meaningful and purpose driven if this shift is not understood, the cultural turn is not understood, and it is becoming integral part of academic discourses in English studies. So quickly, the characteristics of cultural studies. This is from Ziauddin Zardar's Introducing Cultural Studies, a work from 1994. So understand culture in its complex forms, that is social and political context, where it is predominantly manifested. It is a political criticism, culture as an object and its larger political connection. It's a political criticism. I told you we should not be ashamed of being critiques, because it is because of critiques and our constructive questioning, world has come thus far, civilization has come thus far. So we need to continuously criticize, criticize the existing models. That's the mark of civilization. Say for example, we watch a lot of TV shows and all that. If the other day in my OTT app, when I was scrolling through, there was a old show there was an old show which I used to watch way back in the late 90s or early 2000s. But the disclaimer part was just 2 lines. The story is fictitious and it's anything that relates with reality is coincidental. It's just 2 lines. But in a contemporary show that's being aired these days, if you see, the disclaimer part is more than a paragraph, it's more than 100 words. That's the mark of civilization. We are becoming sensitive towards not hurting different sentiments of people, which we were not aware of it. We took people, not only people, different entities of this world for granted. So within 20 years, if our disclaimer is becoming large, from a sentence or two to 100-word paragraph. No, now you say no animals are harmed, children, no remarks were made against children in malicious intent, or any people groups or any oppressed communities are not misrepresented. All these are included, which means we are civilizing and civilized, and we are becoming civilized, and we are becoming more sensitive towards accepting diverse differences. So it is a political criticism. How does this sensitivity comes into human discourses? Because of critical questioning, because of reflecting on cultural constructs. Why is it like this? Why is it not the other way? Why certain things are only enjoyed and privileged by certain sections of society? Why the man-woman relationship is not understood outside the binary, or something of that kind? Such questions had made us more sensitive to differences. So it's a mark of civilization which should be appreciated. So it exposes the constructed divisions of power and knowledge. So how, as I gave you an example of the cricketing context. There were quite a lot of discourses over the period of last 1.5 months. First, there was a patriotic view of cricket. I do watch cricket, but of late I understood it's more than just patriotism. It's a game after all, and we play for the true spirit of sportspersonship, because the players who represent the Indian team, they don't play for the nation called India. Rather, they are paid by a company called Board of Cricket Control in India. So important to understand it's important to understand it beyond the realms of patriotism or jingoism. And then there was a religious paint that was used to understand cricket and view cricket, creating a kind of polarized bigotry to understand cricket as a religious tension. And finally, it was all about one person's aura, which can be debated. And what happened, we eventually lost, which was a heartbreak for the Indian nationals. But the aftermath of it, we found certain pictures where the Australian cricketers having a drink, and they were having their leg or foot on the trophy, which made us know, for a rational person, it made us realize, oh, after all, this is a cup, it's a trophy. The sports personship is more important this than the embodiment of that victory. But we tend to glorify the material more, so our emotions would have been hurt, sentiments would have been hurt. If there I listened to one of the social commentaries or discourses where people were talking about, just because an Australian kept his leg on the trophy, people are disturbed. But then our cultural context for times immemorial spoke about people who were born out of the legs of gods. No, there were no such hue and cry on such discourses which are prevalent throughout the years. So how knowledge is constructed, because even those who were told that you are born out of the legs or feet of God, they did not have the understanding to question it, because the knowledge they received was convincing to make them believe that is their dharma, karma, destiny, whatsoever. So it took someone who is more rational, critical about these social constructs to even coin a term called graded inequality. So how many of you would have come across this terminology? Anyone who has read the text Annihilation of Caste by Ambedkar would have come across this particular terminology, where he talks about how inequality is found everywhere. But yes, any questions also? Okay. So, but he says the Indian context is different, because we have something called graded inequality, where it's not only about haves and have-nots, whereas the underprivileged are further divided into, say, for example, 999 other groups, and they are graded, so they fight with each other, so they never come together for a revolution in terms of democratization of equal access to power or education or whatsoever. So by casteist hegemony, he did not mean the power acquired by a particular community. Rather, Ambedkar was talking about the negation of the same power, liberty and fraternity to other people groups. That's what he was concerned about. So the graded inequality made the Indian society into a four-story building without a lift or elevator or a stairway. So people who stay on top stays there, people at the bottom stay there. So who has to disturb it? People who are privileged have to denounce their inherited privilege, which is more likely to be done, because I may not give up my power as a the power that I enjoy because of social constructs. I realized it of late, especially after marriage. In the house here where we work in Bangalore, I don't see much of gender roles in terms of household chores. But then when I visit my in-laws' house or so, I'm not even allowed to take the plate after eating. And if I do so, my wife gets scolded by my in-laws, or she may not call me by name. So an average person enjoying power would say, this is what patriarchy gives to a human, a man. Why would we disturb it? So that's the power of power. We don't want to denounce it. It took long time for the rational white Americans to denounce inherited privilege, be shameful of inherited privilege, and then they started talking about earned privilege. So the top brass deconstructing this power of knowledge is difficult, but so Ambedkar was trying to talk to people at the bottom who were told that you came from the feet of God. So, but the problem is they were told that it's their destiny and it's their dharma to do this, and we would respect you as long as you do what is expected from you. If you venture into doing what I am expected to do, you may not be respected. So that kind of knowledge was constructed through hegemonical sources. So they were not able to shake and disturb the four-story building without possibility to move up and down. So cultural studies questions this constructed divisions using power and knowledge. So it is by which it is an ethical evaluation of modern society from ethical grounds. So when as part of the English and Cultural Studies department, we have some insightful courses for commerce or BBA students, like commerce and Indian society, where we discuss gender and commerce, we discuss caste and commerce, we discuss environmental concerns and commerce with case studies, reading comprehensions, and all that. So the heated arguments, people want everyone to stay in their places. As long as they stay, we will respect you. But if you want to interfere into my doing, I may not. That's the but then progressive thinking envisions that anyone can do anything, and democratization of resources should be accessible and affordable to everyone. So one question we asked those students was, if you are on the other side, will you speak the same? It holds good for anyone if you are on the other side. So cultural studies envisions an ethical evaluation of modern society, why certain people are underprivileged, why one day we were going through the roads in Electronic City in Bangalore, where big apartments were coming up, apartments in a sense 20-story, 30 stories. And I was telling my wife that the biggest dream of salaried class in Bangalore is to buy one pigeonhole somewhere here, which would cost a crore or 1.5 crore these days. And then after a pause, she told me, if the biggest dream of salaried class is to own a pigeonhole in this, right? Which is something unimaginable, when it comes to the magic people or the super rich, the have lots who have just invested 1,000 crores, 2,000 crores on these projects, and the very sight of excavating the earth to build such large structures is inhibiting for an average human like me. So I thought our dreams should be buying something of this kind, at least one pigeonhole. But she reflected that if that is our dream, look at the people working there. They can only dream of staying one day in the completed constructed houses. See, that's the difference. No, have lots, haves and have nots. So we become more progressive, accepting diversities, inclusive, being more inclusive. We ethically evaluate modern society when we are a cultural critique, and cultural practices and their relationship to power, how we are interpellated, to use the word Louis Althusser's word, interpellated to practice certain things by passive power or by passive indoctrination or by popularizing certain opinion around. There is a theory in media studies called spiral of silence. Spiral of silence, where a popular opinion is popularized to an extent. So there is someone who has got an unpopular opinion will be silenced by his own sentiment, saying, I cannot make this statement here because the popular opinion is something else. So let me go with the bandwagon. Say, for example, in America, the TV debates will always be when there is an invasion in Afghanistan or Iran. There would be discussion about whose modus operandi was better, whether the Democrats or the Republicans, and there won't be a discussion on the invasion itself is wrong. So someone who has that kind of an idea would never speak out because there is a spiral of silence, because the popular opinion is more popularized. The debate is only within the popular opinion and not within unpopular opinion. That's the reason why many of you would have watched a film like Avatar, which demands a post-humanist reading, because there is one group which tries to invade an alien group, and that was one of the magnum opus of James Cameron. That year he was not awarded the Oscar, but then in the same year the film which won an Oscar was Hurt Locker, which supported American invasion of Afghanistan. And ironically, the director of the film is none other than James Cameron's former wife, Catherine Bigelow. Her film supported American invasion, so she received a lot of accolades, knowledge and power nexus again. Whereas Avatar was against the idea of invading, so he was downplayed in the context. So it's something we need to understand how certain practices are always related to power through dominant and counter narratives. So I thought of being brief in this component. I understand I'm going more than what I intend to. So cultural studies in India, it's an ever evolving domain. Every day there is new concern. You solve one, you find a new concern in terms of human relationships or whatsoever relationship with non-human entities. So it's an ever evolving domain. At this context, many university departments provide programs on cultural studies, like JNU or Jadavpur, or private university like Christ University. Many literature departments include cultural studies as a course or paper. I understand there is one paper in cultural studies in the American college, at least for the past 4 or 5 years. And it discusses new socio-cultural movements and new pressure groups in the electoral process, probably, or new identities and new forms of identities. We'll discuss more on this in the second part, that is on posthumanism. And it's a kind of there is an attitude or aptitude to study more audio visual texts. When I said we need to study soap operas with the same intensity with which we study a Shakespearean play or a canonical literary text, I was reminded of Big Boss again, because it is maybe we can say, are we sensible and matured enough to watch it as a social reality rather than going with the flow of things? Because working in a corporate like scenario, I understand it is more contextual, because you find certain things. No, the co-contestants should rate the others, should talk about their plus and minus, is something which is happening in an institutionalized way in corporate context, where uh, you find peer reviews. You must review, as you must take up a systematic feedback structure where you review your own colleagues. Imagine how it would be in traditional institutions as well. So I find the relevance of a Big Boss in real life context as well. So we need to read those carefully to find the cultural relevance. Or why would we read Harry Potter? There is a text by name Reading Harry Potter. It's a collection of essays edited by Lisa Anatol. It talks about critical reading of Harry Potter. The reason is, during the early 2000s, J.K. Rowling just came in search of her estranged boyfriend or so, ended up being a bedtime storyteller, and she ended up becoming a rich woman than the Queen of England at that point in time. So it was well consumed by the youngsters. So the cultural critics wanted to analyze what the youngsters of that times they consume. To understand future, it is important to analyze what the youngsters consume today. We as adults sometimes think it's nonsense what they consume. Of course it can be nonsense, but that's what they consume. So as a cultural critic, it is important to analyze those texts. And Mills and Boon's romances, it's a pulp fiction like which was hated by the mainstream academia even in America, but there was a valid book on it, reading the Mills and Boon romances, why people read it, why is it so popular among women, though there is stereotyped projection of women going in search of the right match, which is again and again dealt in the series of novels by Mills and Boon's romances. Why do women read it? So we need to analyze such things which are consumed a lot by the people. Rather, we stick on to analyzing and deconstructing texts which are less consumed. What is the impact of analyzing those which are less consumed? There will be more relevance when we analyze, deconstruct, and research on cultural texts. Cultural texts in cultural studies is anything, a meme or advertisement, or whatever, a social media post. What is consumed more should be analyzed more to understand society. What's the point in reading something and analyzing and giving a social projection for which only the researcher is the reader? So it is more important to analyze audio and visual text more in the contemporary context, and perception of internet in itself as an object of study to understand culture is also one of the emerging trends of cultural studies in India. So cultural studies in India, reasons and reactions, I'll quickly. So there was a crisis in humanities. What is really academic in humanities? That coincided with the cultural turn in social sciences. So there is specificities in the Indian context. I'd like to throw light upon Stuart Hall in 1980s. He was invited to deliver 8 lectures in an American university, where he was talking about cultural studies. He was specific to the Labour Party and Conservative Party tension in London. Little did he know that he was evolving a new academic discipline. I don't know whether I have the book here or at my cabin at the university, but the thing is, after 8 lectures, by word of mouth, in the second and third day, people from different parts of America reached the lecture because they understood something big is happening. And then after 3 years, the organizers immediately they asked him to summarize those lectures as a book, and he took 2 to 3 years to complete it. And that became the fulcrum of cultural studies. The text is Cultural Studies 1983 by Stuart Hall himself, right? So we need to discuss the specific problems in our own context, the concerns related to popular cinema and fandom. When we had a course called Audiovisual Studies, one of the senior professor who was teaching along the course with me, who's a PhD from IFLU, wanted to take the students to one of the popular films which is enjoyed by the localites in the theater. It's a popular masala film, but she wanted to expose the students to what makes these audience consume this popular cinema, what makes fandom an integral part of Indian socio-political context. So the importance given to concerns on secularism, sports and nationalism. I was talking about the 1987, 2011 and 2023 World Cups. It was played in different cities in accordance with who was holding the positions at different points in time. Sports is viewed as a vent out for nationalism, and that's even seen in our warlike situations where 20 people are killed in our side. We want to sit in front of the media and see at least 25 people being killed on the other side, watching it like a sports. there is always glorification of army, war, even in the sports field. And but how far cricket is national? When we talk about something like reservation in cricket, people would say, "Oh, the merit will go and whatsoever." But the sport which is considered something which is nationally viewed, it's very important to understand. Just 4 Dalits have played cricket for India after independence. Yes, it was a long fight for the erstwhile colonies to appropriate cricket from England. That we have done. No, the Caribbean islands, Australia or India, from our erstwhile masters, we have appropriated cricket. So now from the classes, it should reach the masses. What are we doing? What are we trying to do in terms of making cricket the more democratized, in terms of accessibility to different people from different classes? So that's one question of concern. And then regional autonomy, which is a very big debate these days, subaltern concerns, critique of the idea called nation after emergency, hegemony of nationalism or hyper nationalism, gender concerns. These are the reasons to make cultural criticisms in the Indian context, and the list is never ending. So the text, as I said, in cultural studies can be anything. It can be an analysis of a pub, garden, beaches. Fisk, Hodge, and Turner talks about the text in cultural studies, or the sites and spaces we see every day, cityscapes, cyberspace. So what would be the text for a cultural analysis? I've listed a few here: films, web series, video games, because sometimes video games are violent. When I was talking to students in a course called Literature and Technology, they say, we know it's violent. And one student made a thought-provoking insight that human beings, inherently, we are violent. So we went out our violence in rather an artificial setting, which we would otherwise do in real life setting. That is something I didn't expect at that point in time. I thought violent video games promote violence. Of course, there is enough proof and studies to validate it, but they say inherently we love violence. So we give vent to that in a safe setting where we don't harm real people, rather we harm imaginary people to give vent to our inherent violent things. We are not civilized that enough to speak against violence, as we have discussed before. So all these things can be a matter of analysis, a text for analysis. So requisites of a cultural critique: diverse reading, vigilant observation, critical reflection, effective construction of thoughts, negotiating post-truth and algorithmic bias. I would talk about it in the next segment also. And then navigating information and explosion. Navigating information explosion. There is an explosion of information, so there is an anxiety to share whatever we consume, which we need to restrict. There is an important text written by Girish Balachandran. Girish Balachandran, the text name is Truth in the Age of Social Media. Truth in the Age of Social Media, where he says we should talk to the text. Why are you here? What are you trying to convey with me? Right? Because sometimes the thing that is conveyed by social media can be true, can be authentic, but what is the purpose? Say, for example, in my locality, some northern Indian migrant laborers are attacked by local auto drivers or so. It is an isolated incident. It can be authentic. But if if a person living in the same locality from the northern parts of India shares it in his personal social media pages or so, it becomes an authentic voice and a generic perspective. An isolated event becomes generic. So people living back then would think this is the mentality of localites in Bangalore, or this is the mentality of localites in Tamil Nadu or whatsoever. So an isolated incident, which can be solved otherwise, maybe a personal thing or so, can be a communal issue. So we should not act in anxiety, no, at least as cultural critics, we should be careful. We should process the information, ask questions to the text. Why are you here? What are you expecting from me? Do you want me to react? Do you want me to respond? So if we pause for a while before doing all that, we may break the chain that creates polarization, that creates bigotry, that creates hatred. That's something Girish Balachandran discusses in that particular text. In the age of algorithmic bias, I love a particular political leader. I find all good things about him in my social media feed. I think he is doing all good, but it is the algorithm that gives me all good things about him because I only search for the good things. So we need to negotiate this bias by logically conversing with the AI tools. Probably tomorrow, I understand there is a session on using AI as an ally than a rival. The resource person would talk more on, I believe, on how to negotiate with the AI tools to extract the best out of it. So we need to have the quality questions and prompt to negotiate with them. Say, for example, I was having a casual conversation with ChatGPT the other day. I found two phenomenons. One group during this Israel-Palestine issue, the Jews always they take pride in saying we are God's chosen race. Then I understood in the Indian context, there is a community which says if they are God's chosen race, we have the mantra to tune God. Then I framed a question with ChatGPT. If someone says they can tune God with their prayers or mantras, then they are powerful than gods, right? Because God acts based on their. So going by this, does this particular community can be considered the most powerful than God? So ChatGPT said no. The religious beliefs never think that human beings are powerful than God and all that. I said stop being apologetic, and then I said, see, I gave a logical explanation. I have a friend. He does everything based on my instruction. He doesn't do anything on his own. My prayers, my mantras are the ones which is making him to do things. If at all he is doing things, then who is powerful? Then ChatGPT said, you are powerful. Then applying the same logic, whether the person who uses mantras and prayers is powerful or the God, then it says, yes, by this logic, the person who claims to have the mantra to tune God is powerful. That gives a great insight of the social construction. If one says, I am chosen by God, the other says, I can tune God, who is more powerful? One surpasses even God, right? So we can negotiate with ChatGPT or AI to break the constructions that are created to understand society. So ensuring rational information processing in the age of post-truth. And I would use another phrase which Professor John Shaker, Dr. John Shaker would use: suspicion is an investment. Suspicion is an investment of a scholar critique, or suspicion is an investment of a cultural critique. Anyone who aims at innovation should suspect, right? Only when we suspect existing models, we create new modules. So you can just click a picture of this or so, or maybe I'll share the PPT as well. These are the emerging avenues in literary cultural studies, digital humanities or literary studies, environmental humanities. As I told you, studying popular fiction, detective novels, crime novels, or crime films, how do they stereotype representations of criminals, romances, children literature, analysis of lit flicks, literature films, adaptations. That's the one. The idea of commodity fetishism in terms of online shopping, trying to read the advertisements, soundscapes, an interesting area that I am working on these days, as I have a course on audio and visual studies. So soundscapes relates to the noise and how the sound created from a particular landscape is associated with their livelihood. So we would have heard teachers in the classroom say, don't behave like a fish market. What do they mean to say? Whether vegetable market will not have any noise. Why is it always fish market? Why is it fish market looked down upon than a vegetable market or any other market which is also equally noisy? So the study of cyberspace, we had an interesting course called Reading Cyberspace as Private and Public. One of the students, while introducing the title topic, he said, when it comes to cyberspace, it can be simply reading cyberspaces. Why is it public and private? Everything is public. What is private in a cyberspace? This is something he asked on the first class. And then biometric surveillance. We are all used to it these days. And IT, the need for analyzing IT cells of political parties. The text we had was, I am a troll. I am a troll inside the secret world of the BJP's digital army. It's a book written by Swati Chaturvedi, and a person who was associated with the IT cell. When this text was introduced, many students were asking why only BJP, other political parties also have IT cells. Of course, yes, but BJP was the party to start an IT cell way ahead of all the parties around. Perhaps in the whole of Asia, way back in 2008, they had their own IT cell. The other opposition party like Congress realized its importance after their defeat in 2014, and they set up an IT cell in 2015. Post-humanist reading of culture is one. So with these emerging avenues in cultural studies, I go to the next aspect. Please, organizers, if I go on till 12, 10 or 15, is it fine, or should I have to confine before 12? Please let me know. I'll prepare in that way. Okay, in that case, I will try to confine by and end this talk by 12 o'clock. So the audience, I think you're all with me in this. There is a right. So now we are getting into post-humanism and how it's part of literary cultural reading. I would introduce that field of study and what it is actually, for those who are unaware and for those who have already heard about it, to refocus on what they know about it. Now I have again a brainstorming question. I have 5 pictures here on screen. I want the audience to respond. Which among these are considered technological gadgets? Right, I have 5 pictures. You could see a car, a pen, couple of human beings, a duster, mobile phone. Can you please use the chat box option to say which among the following are technological gadgets? I see smartphone, mobile, yes. I thought this reflection would set our conversation on discourse on post-humanism. Obviously, mobile phone, smartphone and car, smartphone, mobile. Okay. Few more responses, then I would reflect on it. Duster. Okay. Okay. Right. Maybe all. Interesting. Yeah. I want to share with you this. Just I added while the this slide I added while the introductory part was going on. Quickly taking pictures thanks to Bard AI, which gave pictures instantly. When I searched for duster, the car duster came. The Renault company's car. No, duster, the car came. Then I had to say the school classroom duster or something. Then this picture came. Okay. Okay, so thank you. So let us refocus and make a statement that all these are technological gadgets. Maybe 30 years from now, a child would not identify mobile phone as a technological gadget because there will be more sophisticated gadgets back then. As we forget that pen or duster is equally a technological gadget. No, what is technology? Anything that eases human labor. Technology aims at making human life fun, right? Technology aims by its spirit to make human life fun, reduce human labor. And so it's important to understand that technological inventions are aimed at liberalizing, making our lives fun. And that's why someone making a statement that we should work 70 to 80 years, 70 to 80 hours per week is nonsense, because we should leverage technology to reduce our workload. And that's something Bill Gates, spoke last couple of days back, that we can aim at 3 days of work week by leveraging technology, so that humans are happy. Whereas an Indian software person by name Narayana Murthy made a statement that Indians should work 70 to 80 hours. To work and to get work done is different. That's something that these people don't understand, because a subordinate has to stand in a queue to get a signature or so, whereas they would waste time. Many responses came, Mr. Murthy, you may have a car and a chauffeur to reach your workspace so that you can work on your travel. Many do not have the luxury or so. So it is something that we need to take into consideration, that technology aims at making human life easy. And can technology go wrong? This is my next question. Can technology go wrong? Yes is the answer. Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay. Now, maybe I'll ask the next question. Is it the technology which goes wrong, or the people who uses it? People who use it. Technology never tell lies. I think Professor Sundar picked up this from Dr. John Shaker. Okay, right. Okay. Is that technology which goes wrong, or the people who use it? The intentions of people to express power upon different groups of people, right? The usage. Can we just reflect on which is the most safest mode of transport in the world as of now? The most safest mode of transport. Any guesses? Nothing can be completely safe as of now, but among the on foot, okay, okay, by walk, okay, okay, okay. The unanimous answer is by walking, but statistics proves the other way. Pedestrian deaths are more in number. Cycling, okay, okay, okay. The statistical evidence is that the most safest mode of transport in the world is airway travel. Right, airway travel. Going by the, yes, someone has typed it here. Going by the statistics of deaths that happen, out of 65 million flights, one flight meets with an accident. 65 million journeys, not 65 million different flights. That's the statistic. 65 to 67 million. That's not the frequency you find in walking, cycling, or so. So the most safest mode of travel is air. Why so? Is the next question. Why so? Okay, without wasting much time, but it's not affordable for all. Yes, that's what we need to discuss. We see, when we talk about Marxism or cultural studies, people think people who are against luxury will talk all these things. No, we are not against luxury. We want to make it affordable and accessible to all. You would have watched a film like Surarai Portrait, where the person wanted to make air travel affordable to all. That's why at least the middle class or upper middle class is able to use air travel these days in the Indian context. If not for his revolution, that wouldn't have happened. To give you a perspective, Chennai to Delhi flight rates today and what it was 20 years ago was the same. It's roughly around 10,000. At that point in time, 10,000 can be affordable only to few people. Now it's affordable to many. So slowly that should happen. That's a good insight. Yes, no traffic congestion. But the real reason is there is more risk involved. Since there is more risk involved, more fear. So more questions, more productivity. Hope I'm making myself clear, right? So if at all there is some accident of an aircraft somewhere, that becomes a global issue. A bus accident will not become a global issue, right? So since it is a global issue, there are a lot of questions from different spheres of the world. Why such a thing happened? Why can't you? Why there is no safety protocol? So many questions. That's the reason why there is more no inventions to prevent adversities. Even if a flight travels from Chennai to Bangalore 4 times a day, every time X-rays are passed to check whether there is a minute crack on the body of the plane that would cause a fire. Everything is checked to the core. So that's the reason why it is considered the most safest as of now. Okay, so with these words, let's delve into post-humanism. So for want of time, I would want the participants to click screenshots or pictures of these slides. It is the timeline. Post-humanist discourses a timeline. It started from 1956 probably, or 1957. The British biologist and writer J.B.S. Haldane used the term post-human, right? And in terms of literary criticism, Roland Barthes' idea of death of an author that questioned the human entity in literary production, that should be the early insights on post-humanist discourses. Again, Animal Liberation by Peter Singer, Donna Haraway's book, that's the fulcrum of post-human discourses, Manifesto for Cyborg, Science, Technology, and Socialism. And moving on, I think those who are interested have clicked a picture of this. And then continuing in 1990s or 2000s, Catherine Hayles, How We Became Posthuman, American philosopher Carrie Wolf, What is Posthumanism? And in 2010, Luciano Floridi, Ethics of Information. More importantly, the base of transhumanist projects, 2011, Nick Bostrom's Superintelligence, Paths, Dangers, and Strategies. These are the texts or the timeline in which this movement called posthumanism emerged or evolved over the years. So different types: transhumanism, which focuses on using technology to enhance human capabilities, to overcome human limitations, to create superhumans or something of that kind. And then post-feminism challenges the traditional notions of gender and femininity, advocates more for fluid and changing nature of gender identity. Post-humanist ecology, shifting the human sentiments to other entities in the environment to promote more sustainable and respectful relationship with nature. How to think like a lake, how to think like a mountain or so. So shifting human subjectivity with different entities, human like non-human, or no other entities in the ecosystem or the universe, post-humanist ecology. So these are different types of post-humanism. So what is the basic tenets of post-humanism? Deconstruction of human-animal divide, blurring the boundaries between humans and other entities in the world. It is a breakaway from the breakaway from the anthropocentric view of world. Human at the center. There is still a view of theocentric view of the world, God at the center or human at the center. But post-humanism blurs all these boundaries and says there is an interconnection between humans, non-human entities, and technological entities, which are part and parcel of our lives. So embodiment and materiality of the mind. Right, how materiality is not viewed as abstract, rather it is connected with the knowledge is connected with the commodified world. So we are something which is part of this whole system. No one is an individual, we are wired. So post-humanism believes that there is the humans are no more the center of this thing, and human is no more completely a natural entity. We are no more natural. Now I'm asking a question: when did we become a blend of natural and artificial entities? When did humans become a blend of natural and artificial entities? Or maybe to use the word cyborg, an amalgamation of two different things, natural and artificial. Since when did we become? From 2019 after COVID? Okay, interesting, right? Since when did humans included non-natural entities within us? Any other responses? Hope I'm making my question. Since Adam and Eve. Okay. Okay. Right. Maybe since we started wearing glasses, lenses, right? So I'll give you a perspective. The day when human beings started cooking their food, we became artificial, right? Or since then, we cannot say we are completely natural. The day when human beings encountered fire and they documented it. I was someone who was against rigorous documentation. Now I understand it's the most important thing that human beings can do. We invented sugar. Sorry, we invented a kind of sugar 8,000 years back, and still it has come thus far because of documentation. So the moment when human beings, yeah, uh, yes, cooking food with fire, when we started cooking food with the help of fire, that's when we became more of an artificial entity, and we can never claim that we are completely natural. So post-humanism as a movement blurs these boundaries. To understand, I've put a definition here. It's from Rosie Braidotti's Post-Human Knowledge, a very recent text, discusses the concept of post-humanism, which challenges traditional humanism, its anthropocentric views. It explores the evolving relationship between humans and technology, as well as blurring the boundaries between humans and non-human entities. It tells a lot about, I've scribbled a few notes while in the morning, right? So it tells a lot about how technology shapes our thoughts. Say even today, most of us, many are religious. We pray. Can someone reflect on? You need not share here how technology has shaped our prayers. No, I could never imagine. I know the socio-cultural life of Nazareth, the place, because of many of my close relatives are from that place or so. And I can never imagine an academic conference taking place on a Sunday, especially from that part of the country. But it's happening. It's happening. And then can we reflect on the idea that how technology has changed the way in which we say prayers, right? If at all anyone is free to discuss, you can open the mic and also speak. Hope you understood my question. How technology has influenced or changed the way in which we pray.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Yeah, please.
I'm Ridhima Bhalla, and I want to shed light on the
Okay.
question which you asked just now.
Mhm.
Yeah, regarding prayer, as in the earlier days, even I belong to a Hindu family. So generally, whenever we do aarti and the puja at home, so we used to play musical instruments, and we used to sing the aarti bhajan at home,
Mhm.
right? Nowadays, with the advent of technology, so there are a lot of audio, visual videos are available. So
Mhm.
what we do, we just play it
Okay.
either on the mobile or the screen instead of singing together in
Mhm.
the group. So that also solves our purpose.
Okay. Yeah. Okay,
Thank
thank you, man. Thank you. So it leads to the idea that resistance to technology was always there. No, when writing was invented, philosophers thought it would erode into human memory, so they resisted writing. And then when television came, people were against television. Religious people were against television. Now they are the ones who make optimum use of television and technology. It's not only about the way in which we do rituals, even in the content of our prayers. I see a change in the content of our prayers. Say, for example, try to reflect on this. Say, there is a text by Totero Rebecca. If you find time, you can read it. Totero Rebecca. titled Plague Prayers, or Plague Papers, analyzing the Black Death of the Elizabethan age from 4 different perspectives. What are they? Medical responses to the plague in the Elizabethan age, religious responses to the plague, uh, imaginative literary portrayals of the plague, and finally, governmental responses to the plague. So it's a collection of 6 to 7 articles which were published during the 15th and 16th century, which is analyzed in the contemporary context, edited by a person called Totero Rebecca. So what does it talk about? What were all the governmental measures during Black Death? The Church of England, Church of England published a prayer book, especially for prayers during Black Death, right? And then medical responses, the books on different concussions that people should use during. This is something similar to what we do even today during the COVID. So public responses, medical responses, the medicines that people can take, all those things. And then imaginative literary portrayals on quarantines, Boccaccio's reflections on Boccaccio's Decameron, or things of that kind, So I see a content change in prayers because of technology. Say, for example, earlier, the prayer was completely around miraculous healing, right? Hope I'm making if there is a cancer or they say, for example, 50 years ago, we might not have diagnosed that as a cancer and people would die for no reason. Now that we have treatments for cancer and people are becoming, taking it for granted. Since there is a medical intervention, I know many people who thought, oh, God has healed me, I am a miraculous person, giving no regard to the money spent on the treatment and the scientific rigor that is found. So so they take the life for granted and they perish in the process. But over the years, the content of the prayer has changed. How earlier it was only for miraculous divine intervention, now people pray for the availability of good treatment. Hope I am making myself clear. Now they say doctors should have good wisdom to choose the right treatment. Earlier it was point blank, God, please intervene, and save this person or so. Because, say for example, any rational brain would know, if there is someone who has got cancer, you take to a religious healer or a miracle preacher or whosoever, they would say, I pray for a miraculous healing. If you take a person with an amputated limb to those people, how will they respond in their prayers? They will not pray that the limb should grow, because rationally they know the limb will never grow. But since cancer is something which is invisible, they pray, okay, let the cancer grow, and you do some treatment, and then people think it's a miracle or whatsoever. It's a personal thing. It can give comfort to them at the time of tough tribulations, but it's not magic or miracle. But if person goes with an amputated limb, will a person pray that the limb should grow? Definitely not. But such things happened 500 years ago. So technology has changed the way in which the prayers contents have changed. Because today, if you take a rational person would pray, let the family get the finances to get a prosthetic limb. Let it fit well, because science has given solution. Paracetamol, the medicine in itself, has saved millions and millions of lives, right? Science has given solutions. For someone whose limbs are amputated, there is something called prosthetic limbs. Advanced robotic limbs have come. So we may even pray for accessibility to those. So the way in which we are praying has changed, which is influenced by technology, which we should not forget. And technology is an integral part of us. We cannot say I am a complete human anymore, because we use mobile phones, the spectacles that we use. And the other day when we had a discussion at the initial stages of my exploration with posthumanism, my wife even told me the example of a watch. if someone claims that we are natural, we should not know, we should avoid using technology, we should not, elitists would do that. They would say, don't use technology, and they would use it and grow, right? Anyone who wants liberalized, democratized use of technology would say, ask others also to use it. So she said, watch for that matter. Why? If we are humans, natural, no, we could look at the sun and no calculate the time for until this time. But then when watch came, people resisted. But now it's part and parcel of everyone. Now many don't wear it because it's there in a mobile phone, or we have smart watches, which does more than telling us the time. It keeps track of our health. When sometimes when you leave elderly or sick people at home, you track their body vitals using all this. There is surveillance and privacy issues, of course, again, because of the misuse of human selfishness and ruthless naked self-interest. It's like when we blame technology for these pitfalls, it's like in earlier films we would have seen, when the villain's henchman brings a bad news, the villain would right away slap him or take his revolver and shoot him for bringing the bad news. So if we find fault with technology, we are like those villains. No, the problem is somewhere else. We find fault with the thing that brings the bad news to us. Say, for example, harassments, blackmails, it was always there with human civilization. Technology throws light on all this, for which we cannot blame technology. We should make a careful use of it. So this is the way in which technology is influencing us over the years, and we should acknowledge its presence in our daily life. That's the essence of post-humanist understanding and post-humanist knowledge that makes us understand every individual entity in this world has a nomadic subjectivity. This term is used by Rosie Braidotti. Subjectivity is fluid, right? And a few more insights to understand this particular aspect. We talk about veganism or non-vegetarian eating. It's a symbol of civilization that people become vegetarian. Even I'm a non-vegetarian, but if you ask me to kill an animal and eat, I may not. So for such things, science gives you solutions like tissue culture or so, where you need not kill animals anymore. Rather, you can have the same essence of it in the future. Such things would come. So we should not add ritual, customary beliefs and section people groups based on what they eat and all that. We should seek technological intervention. So if I make this statement, the idea of omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, these are the three things that is associated with God. But today technology replaces it. The place where we traditionally thought gods are dwelling is the place where now satellites are dwelling, and they help us understand the world better. And say, for example, in the case of tsunami, a cultural critique can take up two different insights. Number one, if God allowed this for human errors, whether God is bad, or if God did not stop it, God is powerless. These are the two inferences we get about tsunami. So if we go to religious texts or scriptures, any text in the nation or in the world that gives you ever fixed answers, it is human karma, it is the will of God, it is last days, it is Kali Yuga, it is last judgment day, and whatever it is, similar ever fixed answers. Whereas if you go to science, it gives you, science may not be able to answer all the questions at this point in time, but it evolves every other day, whereas scriptures don't evolve. So science says, no, it is possible because we disturb the tectonic plates to extract minerals from the ocean surface. So we need to have different technologies to do the same without disturbing the tectonic plates. Or it would give more sophisticated satellite surveillance to forecast such things in the future. So it is more futuristic. Whereas the religious responses to such adversity gives a kind of ignorant comfort. Okay, this happens because of God's will, we should accept it. But embracing science gives you more effective solutions. This is something that we need to have in mind to understand the post-human. Here I would want to want the participants to revisit on this word called scientific temper. By any chance, any of the participants know who coined this word, to whom the word is attributed to, scientific temper? Scientific temper. Okay. Yeah, during Corona, many of us asked the church to pray through WhatsApp. And okay, the churches were closed, hospitals were open. Of course, no, Stephen Hawkins talks about this. Everyone knows if we throw a ball, even if there is no opposite force, the ball will go on the direction where we throw. Still, we believe in superstitions, and still we believe in interventions of miracles or magic, because it gives comfort. That's found in your response as well. It gives immense strength to overcome the situation. Say, for example, if we pray, take medicine, we may get cured, because the curing happens because of the medicine. Prayer gives comfort. If a person only prays, what happens? He or she may end up their life, because that's the proof of the pudding is in the eating. It's the medical intervention that cures. Prayer can give a comfort. Many people gain that comfort by understanding the reality, even without prayers also. Few need it, nothing wrong in it. If that's the only thing that gives them hope to survive, that's nothing wrong in it. But the thing is, today we find in the elite societies, people who want to show that they are closer with God, that's a kind of grade with them. They use all the technological developments, that is medical developments, and then they spend a lot of money in taking those medicines and treatment. They come to the church or a religious place and give a testimony that I am saved by the grace of God. Many who cannot afford for that medical, many who are listening to it, those who cannot afford for that medical sophistication, or many who are illiterate, right, they would think, oh, I can still pray and get relieved from a kind of disease that I'm undergoing, which is spreading superstition, which goes against the Constitution of India, right? So we cannot. Yes, Nehru used the term scientific temper. It's part of the Indian Constitution also, Amendment 1976, Article 51A(h), which talks about every Indian citizen. I would read that for the sake of the participants. It shall be the duty of every citizen of India to develop the scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform. So with scientific temper, today we evolve and we say post-humanism, right? So it is the duty of every citizen of India to develop the scientific temper, so that it leads to critical thinking and reform in humanity, right? So we cannot simply come out and say I'm saved by the grace of God or whatsoever, because it is spreading superstition. Whereas those who are not able to get exposed to such medical treatments and all that, they may get carried away. They go to some physical healer or so, and no miraculous healer also, or they spend their money, which is not good. And rationalists like me, we are not going to gain anything by preaching or speaking rationalism, whereas it would save people from spending their own money and resources on ordinary things. Right, yeah, they come, doctors eventually they say we'll do our duty and the rest is with God, they say, but that is to escape from the errors they make carelessly. No, they can make errors here and there, so they put the blame on God to escape. That's my understanding. Because I would say, in my birth, since such questions came in, I had 3 different complications in my heart. I lived because of the scientific intervention and the economical privilege and scientific temper which my parents had. Had they sit and they were only praying, I'm not alive today. So without prayer, with treatment, there is chance of, yeah, trans movie is the best example, right? Elitist, they make, no, I'm closer with God, I prayed, I'm saved. So people, innocent ones, they think, okay, I can also pray and get relief from this. I'll go to a miraculous healer, spend my money. That's no obnoxious, right? So let's stop here. Maybe I'll take questions at the end. So that's my understanding of it. So I live today, I give credit to scientific intervention. Many of us don't give credit to scientific intervention. Rather, we glorify the abstract things that gave some solace or comfort to us rather than the scientific intervention. And post-humanism, as I told you, has changed the way in which we pray in itself, even if we pray. So what our forefathers believed 100 years from now, behind 100 years back, today we don't believe it, and our future generation will not believe what we believe in. More science, the miraculous or superstition shrinks, and then that's the understanding. Science may not be able to give answers to everything, every question we have, but then it is evolving, whereas spirituality is not evolving. That's the concern. It gives ever fixed answers. It's your karma, it is Kali Yuga, it is your last day, it is judgment day. All these, ever fixed answers, whereas science evolves to give solutions to the problems of humanity. That's my thing in support of post-humanist idea. So you can click a picture of this slide as well. The theoretical underpinnings are found in these texts, all texts verified, and few of those I have read as well as part of the course that I teach, right? Questioning human exceptionalism, very essence of speciesism, just like casteism, religionism, regionalism. Humans have something called speciesism. It only takes some other species to come and speak to us that, do you think you are the topmost in hegemony? Such a thing. When we thought my religion is the best, people in Israel and Palestine fight in the name of the same God. God, the Jehovah, or Yahweh, or Allah is the Abrahamic God, maybe Ibrahim in the Islamic context, but then they fight in the name of one God, linguistically different. So such rational thinking should come into play to accept humanity as a whole, this universe as a whole. And so say, for example, it's very difficult unless someone comes and tells you, why do you think you are the best? Since other species don't speak today, we don't have that sensitivity. So it is very important to understand all of us together create this universe, and we are going to the next stage, making our life better. Technology is to make life better, and technology rewards good work. I strongly believe in that. Before the intervention of technology, there was no reward for good work. Those who are cunning and cutthroat were still it is there, but then they were exploiting people like anything. The very idea of Google review system gives a kind of acknowledgement to consistent work. We must acknowledge it. Even if we are not glorifying, technology does not want us to glorify. Even if ChatGPT gives you some interesting insights, you say thank you. It says I welcome, but I'm not a human. I just take your prompts and give you responses. It does not require it. Rather, for our comfort, we thank different things. But the thing is, we should acknowledge this technology's role in making our life better. Please click a picture of these theoretical underpinnings if you are aimed at making post-humanist readings. So this is the most important one. I'll spend 5 to 10 more minutes and I'll complete my talk. I remember I started around 10:20 and I'll complete before 12:15. So how is post-humanism different from transhumanism? Post-humanism is philosophical. I'll summarize all these, which I've put here. Transhumanism is practical, because post-humanism examines the evolving nature of humanity in light of technological advancements, whereas transhumanism uses technology to enhance human capabilities. Right? Transhumanism uses technology to enhance human capabilities. It is like more specific. Transhumanism is the practice of post-human philosophy. Post-humanism made us understand the boundaries between human beings and technology and human-like entities called robots or other technological gadgets or other non-living things in this particular ecosystem are blurred. Whereas transhumanism, using this philosophy, it tries to enhance the capabilities of human beings. What are those enhanced capabilities? Lifespan. Number 2, mental capabilities. Number 3, physical capabilities. Lifespan. 35 years has become 67, and in many Scandinavian countries it has crossed 100 as well, right? There is an idea called Ikigai, a book, no? Even the host in Tamil Big Boss referred to this book in one of the episodes. Ikigai, purpose to life. If you talk to elders in our house after 60, they would say, my children are married, they have children, my life is done, I will sit at home, seek peace in something. And they don't have purpose to extend their life to 100 or 110. But insightfully, the last election in Karnataka, more than 700 voters have crossed 100. 700 voters. It's a good number. Whereas in Scandinavian countries, they redefine their purpose every year. After 60, they want to learn something, skydiving or so, right? So they find new purpose in living, and for which they embrace technology. It is only hypothetical. I'm making a statement. They say the immortal human is living with us. How is it possible? They say now the lifespan is 67 to 100. By the time a 20-year-old now is becoming 100, at that point, life expectancy is becoming 130. That person would reach 130. When that person reaches 130, life expectancy becomes 150. That person would leave 150. So there is no tragedy than unending stories and no stuff. But then they like to they endeavor to enhance human capabilities. To what good or so, I do not know. Because 10 years back, I know a person who's a rationalist who said who would want to live long. He is careful about his food choices and all that when he visits his relatives' places. And eventually he died in an accident. Me being a sadist, no religious person of that kind, I thought, oh, this is what God does. He thought there is no God and he died in an accident. How sadist that was. Now, that's not the case. But then the thing is, it's a kind of selfish reflection. We say, I go in a bus, there was an accident, 10 people died, and I'm the only one who is saved. It's completely selfish to make such statements. We are insensitive to the lost lives around, right? In such prayers during COVID, I saw many are died, but we are living. That's because of God's grace. If there is God's grace, it should be for everyone. Right? That's a humanist or post-humanist perspective should be, right? So transhumanist aims at enhancing the life expectancy, mental capabilities, and physical capabilities through three things. They are artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, and biotechnology. Artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, and biotechnology, through which they enhance the life expectancy. It is the science of post-humanist philosophy. We may question its surveillance, privacy. That's what we should discuss. We should debate on making it accessible to everyone. Say, for example, Elon Musk is working on something in terms of BCIs, computer and brain interface, brain-computer interface. He's working on something called Neuralink, which is nothing but placing a computer in the brain. Now our cognition is distributed. Say 1 plus 1, I say 2, but if there is a multiple digit number, I go to the calculator. What if the calculator is integrated with the human brain? And they are trying to create, using cryopreservation, they are trying to create human beings who can be a superhuman, taking the best traits from different animals who could survive evolution changes. They try to create a superhuman. It can be dangerous. It can be dangerous when it goes out of control. So the end users, we need to be really careful on what to use and what to accept. But by the spirit of it, it is to enhance human capabilities. But if there is even a discussion, a machine can even engulf the universe. But we receive news or receive signals from different planets and universes which are 16 lakh years old, 8 billion years old. We do not know. That's what we do not know, whether we live in a simulated universe which is created by a super advanced civilization, or it is. I'm not going to make a conclusive statement on whether we are evolved or we are created, or we are created by a superhuman civilization long back. Even if they send messages to us, we react. By the time that universe should still exist, it's beyond our thinking. But the thing is, the problems of this world, The miraculous superpower we believe in is not intervening to solve it. There are wars in the name of God. There are people who were smashed against the walls and killed. Babies were killed in Latin America. And those people, invaders, were guilty. They went to their religious leader and said, "We are guilty that we killed many people." The leader said, "Don't worry. Just because you killed them, they went to heaven." That's the same thing you find in different religious texts. They are doomed to hell. You kill them. It's your karma. They go to heaven. Right? And there is a verse, I think, in Psalms 129 or 137, the last one. Blessed are those who smash your babies against the wall. It's a verse from the Bible, which is common to the Jews because it's the Old Testament. It's common to the Jews, it's to the Muslims, and also to the Christians. Blessed are those who smash your babies against the wall. That's what happened in Latin American invasion by the Christians. Right? So that's the reason why we need to embrace technology to make our lives better in a so we might ask, there is warfare which is fought even today using technology. But I tell you, the warfare of the past was more cruel and barbaric than this one. Technology has made it little barbaric, I would say, but I'm not vouching for war. I am a pacifist. I don't want to celebrate war. I cannot glorify war or soldiers. I can only sympathize with them, right? But the warfare which was fought 100 years, 500 years ago used to with correlation with the population of that time, it killed many people than war is killing people today, because there is some sense prevailing somewhere. At least it should become better. Humanity and civilization is only trying to replace one absurdity with the other. Yes, of course, we are replacing one absurdity with the other. Many people today criticize people who are fighting for heroes, people who are fighting for cricket stars. But what were we doing 1,000 years ago? We were fighting for gods who we have never seen. We killed people in the name of gods. This is better. I'm not saying this should stay. More civilization and evolution. We will not fight for people, right? Political leaders or cinema stars or celebrities. But what I'm saying is, that absurdity is slowly replaced by this absurdity where we at least fight for people who we see, right? So it's all about replacing the absurdities with a better one, and we are only becoming better. All the problems that we discuss were always there in humanity. Technology throws light and makes it open to everyone to see. We are becoming better, and with such post-humanist thought and careful use of transhumanist projects, we may become better in the future than what we are today. We should be progressive, inclusive, and diverse. That's where literary cultural critiques should make more reflections on the post-human changes in the world, right? So the emerging domains for research and reading is post-human eco-criticism. Post-human narratology is applying narrative theories to non-human narrators. Prose like Thinking Like a Mountain, right? Kazuo Ishiguro's Never Let Me Go, or Jeff Vandermeer's Annihilation. No, it removes the idea of human narrators to non-human entities. So the theoretical tools that we can use to read these particular texts are Donna Haraway's cyborg theory, Foucault's biopower in terms of surveillance and privacy, Graham Herman's object-oriented ontology, the theory of everything. Everything, there is a theory that we need to apply to understand the medical advancements, the scientific advancements that has made our lives better. We cannot say no. We don't believe in things as our forefathers believed. We have come a long way. Bruno Latour's actor network theory, how the human entities and the non-human entities create a network to create knowledge in this post-human world. Media and audience theories such as agenda setting, spiral of silence, cultivation theory, right? Selective exposure, selective reception, right? These are because we get exposed to things that are selective, that we want to, so that it would comfort we don't want to listen to things which are against our perceptions. but a post-humanist critic is one who challenges her or his perceptions every other day to change the way in which we speak, to change the way in which we speak in an anthropocentric view, right? So it is something to do with the language, because language shapes our thoughts. Language, Safarov's hypothesis, many would have read, language influences our thoughts, language shapes our thoughts. So being more sensitive makes us challenge our own perceptions. I may not be delivering a similar lecture 5 years ago, but when we challenge our own perceptions, question, the thing is, see, I may speak all this, I may meet with an accident, but then I want people around me to analyze and construct the reasons for the accident than saying his time was bad, it was Satan's doing or it was God's doing. There are several factors. No, the roads are not good. Maybe I was fast. There was someone else who was rash, or I was rash. I was lost in thoughts. It is a kind of putting the blame on God or Satan or time is an escape from getting into such constructive criticisms. There is a reason. World to me happens because of butterfly effect and vantage point theory, and we need to understand the theory of everything. So it's not like, no, this person spoke rational stuff, God punished you. That's what God is all about. Is he a sadist? Is she a sadist like the political leaders we see, who is happy when we praise and glorify, and someone goes against, they do bad to them, right? Is that our worldview? We need to be more critical about the worldview. These understand Foucault's biopower gives us a much insightful understanding of how surveillance and privacy can happen in the name of transhumanist projects, which are aimed at enhancing human capabilities, artificial intelligence, or biotechnology or genetic engineering, right? We don't pray for things that we prayed for 100 years ago, because we have got solutions, right? So science is not complete, it is ever evolving. Let me tell you one thing. I stumbled upon a word called skiomorph. Skiomorph meaning a signal or a thing that compromises the brain. Say, for example, in a manual mechanical camera, when you click a picture, there will be a shutter sound, right? But in a mobile phone camera, the shutter is not there. It does not require a krish kind of sound, but phone gives you the sound to compromise your brain that the photo is taken. That scientific terminology is called skiomorph. SKEUMORPH, morphing, changing. In a way, in many religious places, you don't have candles, but you have LED lights, but it gives you a flickering effect to give you an illusion that it's a candle that's glowing, right? So I wanted to understand how skiomorphs are used in cultural narratives. If a case is moved to CBI, we feel everything is fine. So I was reading a paper on skiomorphs and cultural algorithms, which was cited by more than 200 people, a very recent paper. There was a line which said, computer science is in its nascent stages. I repeat, I quote that paper, computer science is in its nascent stages. What do I mean to say? If we are afraid of the technological advancements today and we resist this technology, the news is it's only in its initial stages and it will flourish further. No one can stop it. If we do not embrace, we will be confined. We should use it to liberate ourselves. We need to be more critical in understanding the culture and also our lives in terms of understanding human interactions with the technology. Because remember, computer science, genetic engineering, biotechnology, artificial intelligence, they are only in their nascent stages. Teachers who started teaching in the 1980s, senior colleagues of mine, or 1990s would have never imagined an online classroom like this. So I should be prepared for something which I never imagined now when I retire, right? because computer science is in its nascent stages. It has just begun its play and game. More to come is something we need to understand. That's why literary cultural, I said we should not be ashamed of being a critic. Literary cultural reading is part and parcel of English studies, and a post-humanist lens broadens our perspective, makes us more inclusive, makes us more diverse, to understand the interplay of technology in our daily lives, how it liberates. One example I give you, 1985, when A.R. Rahman was a keyboard programmer, when he took the software programming, people criticized him saying, you are doing away with the jobs of 100 guitarists, 100 violinists who are there day and night to play for Ilayaraja or bigger musicians of those days. But you know what happened? Then there were only 10 composers. Today, with keyboard programming, musicians here might know, all those 100 players who played for 100 rupees, 200 rupees, with their excellence can become composers of their own. That is what technology will do. It will democratize the art space. It will make equal, it will expand its boundaries. OTTs has made creative producers not to stand in front of producers house, for directors to stand in front of producers houses. If they have good content, OTT observes it. So A.R. Rahman was criticized for taking the keyboard programming because they thought 100 guitarists are playing, you are giving the sound from this box, and they are not paid. But today, Tamil film industry alone has more than 100 music composers. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not wrong. There are more than 100 composers active in Tamil film industry, thanks to keyboard programming technology. So technology will only liberate. Those elitists who would use it will tell others don't use it. That is wrong, right? We should use it for our liberation. So we need to critically understand how a post-humanist interaction with technology and other non-human entities, human-like non-human entities, makes our life better, and focus on our research towards all these insights, right? So the theoretical tools, okay, of course, it was there in the previous thing as well. Queer theories can also be added in this list. Yeah, post-humanist disability studies. Earlier, disability, polio. How many of us see people who are affected with polio these days? We have a medical intervention that polio is almost extinct. Earlier, polio was seen as a curse of God. Today, we don't see people with polio because the medicine was democratized. That's what we should look into. We should make it accessible and affordable to people, right? So final thing that I've come to, cultural studies and post-humanism in action apart from the research. Cultural studies as an intellectual activity is viewed as harmless protest. Protest is like you write papers, you make films, go ahead. It's not going to change capitalist reality. So it is important to take it beyond the academic spaces. Individuals should step out of the bandwagon, because there's always pressure in terms of commodity fetishism to take up loans, right? I don't earn much like my friends who are in the corporate sector, but I have a good life because I don't have loans, right? There's always temptation to go for EMIs or whatsoever, but then we need to step out of this bandwagon. We can take loans for appreciating assets like a house or a land or whatsoever, for a business or so. But then taking for depreciating assets like car and mobile phone, that's sometimes acceptable. But today people take loans for consumables. That is to celebrate the first birthday of the child or to go on a trip, right? That it's because of peer pressure around, no? So we need to step out of this bandwagon to put cultural studies in action. Ensure optimum use of technology as a liberating force. Last 6 months, I believe I'm becoming more organized because of leveraging most of my work to technology. With work stress, people would say, pray, meditate, do yoga. That would again kill your time, I believe. Rather, if we decentralize our tasks, subtasks, priorities, then we will be able to complete our work on time. Rather than wasting time and seeking comfort from something abstract, we one of the graduate attributes of any graduate is problem solving. If after an academic degree, if you are not able to solve problems and we seek help of some spiritual gurus or counselors, it's failure of education. So tomorrow I face something for which I am not able to face the problem. My education has not helped me to face the problem. That's how I should see it, right? So ensure optimum use of technology as a liberating force, democratizing the access and affordability of technology, embracing diversity and inclusivity. That is the essence of post-human knowledge, to acknowledge nomadic subjectivity, right? And finally, societal, taking outside this classroom spaces, integrating our syllabi with service learning programs and sustainable development goals to individual wish fulfillment, institutional benchmarking, and societal growth as a democratized one. It's not only about inclusive growth, but everyone, just like, the fine examples are found in Tamil Nadu, democratizing the access to technology, scientific temper, and engineering. The dividends we see, we were critical about the engineering colleges, 1,000 engineering colleges. Those who used it well are doing really good. When I joined as a teacher, my salary was 8,000 rupees. I was critical, saying those who studied engineering also earning like me. But 10 years down the line, I can never compare with them. They are somewhere else. They are making 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs per month. So technology education was made accessible and affordable to nook and corner of the Tamil society. You find engineers flooding in Electronic City to Bay Area, California. Such way of unleashing the power of democratization of education should happen. Healthcare should happen, for which such critical discourses. See, there is a wonderful book on by Kalayarasan and Vijay Bhaskar, published by Cambridge University Press. They are scholars. They are working as professors in sociology in an Australian university and a European university. Kalayarasan and Vijay Bhaskar. The book titled Dravidian Model, an Interpretation of Political Economy of Tamil Nadu. The third chapter is democratization of education. We maybe now there are quite a lot of questions we can ask to our own governments, state and union, in terms of their control over academic spaces, which is not really progressive. But 20 years back, I thought it was more progressive, to unleash the power of education to the commoners so that it was made affordable. I went to a college 2 months back where they said the college geographical location is only to postpone the girls' wedding age from 18 to 21. Right? And they spend more on the college buses than the salary for teachers, because the parents don't want to send their children in government bus, though there is free pass. They want the college to send a bus. 300 girl children are studying in the college. And another striking phenomenon is that they give maternity leave to first year UG students. Accessibility. You need to go to the different corners of society to make education, healthcare, scientific, technological interventions more accessible and affordable, with which we can make more sense of culture with our post-humanist lens. And it starts with active research and effective implementation of the research discourses. And I shared with you a lot of theoretical insights and literary ways of looking into culture using the post-humanist lens. I believe this should be an eye-opener or a kind of refocus in terms of our literary, cultural, critical process. We are not ashamed to be critiques. We are critiques of the culture. We are critiques of the life to make it better, using post-humanist understanding and careful use of transhumanist projects. So just as lenses do to enhance vision, so does a post-humanist lens to expand our understanding of evolving cultures and identities. With these words, I conclude my talk. Thank you. Yeah, it's geomorphism. Yes, thank you. Organizers, I'm done with my session. If any questions in the chat box, I'll meaning of life. Yes, Ikigai. Yes. Okay, positive waves and all that. I've not experienced such positive ways. I look into things break down into subtasks, and that's how uh, I do. It's my personal opinion. People might differ. Nothing wrong in having faith as a comfort if it's the only hope people have. What's wrong in it? But that should not be a pseudo comfort, because I've seen people who thought it's by faith they live and they took life for granted and they perished. So it should not be a pseudo comfort, and that should not divert people from taking effective scientific methods to uplift our lives than to believe in superstitions.
Thank you very much, sir. We had a very enlightening session and very informative one as well. And as you all know, everybody was interacting with you. So we had a very great day, learning a lot on this day. So it's a very hearty thank to you for enlightening us with your with your overflow of powerful thoughts. Thank you, sir. And as we near the conclusion of this memorable event, I would like to invite Dr. M. Beulah Hemalata, convener of the Faculty Development Program and Research Head of Nazareth Margoschis College at Palayanmanai, to express the gratitude on behalf of us all. Let us welcome her to deliver the vote of thanks.
As we conclude this enlightening session, I would like to convey my profound sense of gratitude to Dr. Jiresh, Assistant Professor in the Department of English and Cultural Studies, Christ Deemed to be University, Bengaluru, India, for illuminating our understanding and cultural studies. Thanks again for the enlivening session. Your time, commitment, and your efforts have left an indelible mark on our enthusiastic, intellectually charged gathering. My special appreciation to the coordinator, Dr. J. Mary Stella, Mr. Jude, Head of the Department of English, organizing committee members, for the meticulous planning and execution ensured for the success of this program. I hope we, the Literarians, will carry the knowledge gained today forward and continue to thrive in our academic pursuit. Thanks you all again for the cooperation, and the further hunt for learning will commence at 2 p.m. Join with us. Thank you all again. Thanks to Dr. Jiresh.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the scholarly audience for your patience and also interaction. Thank you.
You rocked the session and it was really enlivening, and I think all of us enjoyed.
Thank you. Thank you.